I think we're fine with doing an in-person meeting if we could find a location that'll host.
Okay.
So, if we want to throw out some ideas of places, then we can follow up and see what's available, what the rules of engagement are, and then we go from there. We're not going to do a virtual option though. I don't have.
That was just too much.
Yeah, it's just too much asking for my staff.
Yeah, the only place I thought we might be able to do that would be Mark, but we decided not to meet at Mark before.
Well, they changed the rules on us. I think that's what that was about.
Yeah. And so.
I mean, if I can find a room where it can be done, we'll do it, where it's already built into the room, but that would probably mean people would have to come to City Hall, and I'm not sure that's what people want to do.
Well, you get into kind of a parking problem down there, I think. But I don't know. I don't know. Did you get anything from anybody besides Nate as far as documents for the meeting?
Yeah, Marlene should have forwarded something Ben put together. So I have not even had a chance to look at it. I've just been in council meetings all day.
Okay. I'm not sure I got it. Well, what I did get, and maybe this is it, was a summary of the input from the Climate Protection Steering Committee, listening sessions about the different areas of the city, North Kansas City, Central Kansas City.
That's what Ben shared.
Okay. So not new language, new something else. But that's actually part of the Climate Protection Steering Committee report, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Marlene, I did already send in my conflict of interest directly to the city clerk. And maybe
Correct,
some
yes.
other people did too. I don't know. So if you.
Yes, I have received a couple.
Okay. So the city clerk let you know who was still needed. Well, I'm no longer jumping the gun. It's time for everybody to just be signing on like mad. Right?
Yes, that's correct, Carol.
All right, let's get back here.
Once the next commissioner signs in, we will have a quorum.
Okay, I'm not showing as many signed in.
So I have Jensen that just signed in, Nate, Michael, Carol Mackin. I know Carol Mackin. She did say she was here try to be here for the whole meeting.
Yeah, I've got to deal with power outages, so I'll be back and forth.
Yep.
Okay.
So we won't have her set. So just to keep that in mind.
Okay. So are we at a quorum with 6?
Correct, because you guys are 11 in total.
My goodness, we are diminished instead of being 17. Well, I'm definitely expecting Molly and Nate, so I can't imagine Ben wouldn't join since this is a discussion that he's involved in. So hopefully we'll be doing good. How are you doing, Jerry?
I'm doing fine. How's everybody?
Everybody's, I think, a little bit soggy and muddy.
Yeah, I've had my driveway drain replaced yesterday and today.
I see Nate is here. Nate, I guess, was here when I said that before. I talked to Marty this morning. I know he plans to attend. Nate, we can go ahead and have a little conversation. Andy, I talked with Andy before the meeting, and he said that we could probably go ahead with an in-person meeting. We just need to we need to decide where that would work, but we probably can't do an in-person meeting that is also a virtual meeting. So we just have to do an in-person meeting that we get together in person, which is
Carol?
okay with me.
Ben and Marty have just joined, so we have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. Carol Mackin may not be able to stay with us consistently because of things that are going on at her work. And so let's move quickly with the review and adoption of the minutes. And we have 2 sets of May minutes. We have our regular meeting minutes. Let's do those first. Are there any additions or corrections? Can we have a motion to approve as drafted?
Carol, this is Jensen. I don't see any need for corrections. I move that we adopt the May minutes.
Okay, can we have a second?
This is Michael Kelly. I'll second.
All right. All those in favor indicate by raising a hand, if you can, with the little doodah. Did that work? Oh, I see Marty's joined us. Okay. Put your hands down. Anybody opposed, raise a hand. Very well. The meetings are approved as drafted. Again, let's look at the meetings for May 19th, which was a special meeting, and we had only one item on the agenda. Would you please take a look and see if there are any additions or corrections to those minutes?
Carol, this is Jensen. I don't see any additions or corrections. I was at that meeting, and I move that we accept the notes from the special meeting.
Okay, may I have a second?
This is Michael Kelly. I'll second.
Okay, hands up if you approve. Okay, hands down now. Hands up if there's any objections. Seeing, Michael, get your hand down.
Oh, my hand is down. For some reason, it's not. Hold on. One more time.
Okay. Well, don't worry about it. I'll just double check. I'll double check with you if I see your hand waving.
Sorry
So
about that.
Oh, I know. It's technology. Okay, let's move right along with the Solarize KC report.
All right. Yeah, just give me a second here, Carol. I didn't see the agenda, or I didn't see I was first, so give me 1 second.
Okay.
I'm gonna try to share my screen.
Okay, while he's doing that, I want to make a note to everyone that you should have received an email from Melania about the conflict of interest form. And if that's not something you've already sent in, please take care of it. It's due in May, so this is overdue for forms that aren't in yet.
Okay,
we
let me
go.
know. You see them? See it?
Yes, looks good.
Okay, great. All right, so this is going to be just kind of a quick overview of the Solarize Kansas City campaign, just to kind of give everybody a little bit more information than what you might normally see. I know that I've got Jensen on the line here too, so he's another resource part of the coalition that's helping to do this. So real quick, so Solarize Kansas City, we launched it officially yesterday. Nope, that was, gosh, Monday. I'm losing track of days. It's flying by so fast. But yeah, we launched Monday night, 6 o'clock at the Ignition Lab, and pretty successful launch. So this is the coalition. I mentioned this in previous meetings. We have a variety of folks helping the city on this campaign. We were originally approached by Rocky Mountain Institute. And after partnering with Solar Crowdsource and Rocky Mountain Institute, then I had the pleasure of reaching out to these variety of organizations in the community to kind of help build this out. So we've got some great partners here helping us with this campaign. So what is Solarize Kansas City? So essentially, it's a group purchase program. So it's the idea of crowdsourcing is to get as many folks to contract for solar installations to eventually get the price down. It's available to residential, commercial, and nonprofit organizations. So trying to make solar energy more affordable and accessible being, trying to remove whatever barriers we have, whether a resident has concerns or, about the installation process or working with installers, affordability issues, of course, through the bulk purchase program. We'll talk a little bit about the low and moderate income component of this program. I'll get to that in a second. But these are, and then the competitive bid process. Our campaign has kind of taken the competitive bidding process and done that for the resident and the commercial that want to participate in this program. So you already have sort of a competitive bid part of this. This is a limited time campaign, so part of what makes these things work is the sense of urgency to encourage people to kind of move forward with it with an installation. So the campaign officially launched on Monday. We'll go through the end of October, so you have until then to actually sign up. That doesn't mean you're contracting. It just means you're identifying that you're interested in the free assessment that will be done by the installer to basically give you a quote or an estimate, cost estimate on what it would cost to set you up for solar installation. You have then until the end of October to contract, and I'll cover that here in a little bit. So again, this is kind of a community-based program, in that we've kind of aligned with not only what the city's goals are with our climate protection resilience plan, but also trying to align with those organizations that have similar missions. We're also going to be doing various education and outreach events through the course of the summer to kind of hopefully address some of the community's interests, concerns, questions that they might have. So we're still sorting that out in terms of what those activities are going to be, but we're actively kind of collecting what folks want to hear about. We're addressing policy barriers through this. So one of the things that the group is dealing with, and it's been interesting, is, what happens when somebody wants to do a community-based community solar installation in their neighborhood? So how does that work? Why can we do it? Why can't we do it? So this group, it seems very committed into trying to work through some of those questions or issues, even though the solar campaign is it's fairly well defined in terms of what the program can do. And that's in terms of offering solar installations, whether the roof mount or ground mount for residential homeowners. And, so there's certain defined parameters of this, but we're discovering there's lots of things people want to do that don't fit within this program. So, keeping track of those and working on those for maybe a future iteration of this campaign. Kansas City Solarize KC 2.0 or whatever, something that we're considering. This is in partnership with Rocky Mountain Institute. As I mentioned before, this is actually the second time that a cohort of cities has done this across the country. They did this last year. They had, I think it was around 16 or 17 organization cities across the country that participated in the first cohort. We're in the second cohort this year with about 7 cities. Oklahoma City is on there. We've got a city from Hawaii, I believe Tulsa, Cincinnati, Pensacola. So we've got a few others in this cohort. Which is nice, because we did have a variety of workshops and meetings with the other cities in concert with Rocky Mountain Institute. So we were all kind of talking through similar issues, going through the model of how this sort of works. So it's been really super helpful. And then the last part of this is, of course, the emphasis on equity. One of the things when I reached out to the partners and the coalition members is, they were very much interested in what can we do to address the energy burden here in Kansas City, particularly. How can we offset some of those energy costs through this program? So how do we roll solar installations out for low and moderate income families? So that's part of this program, and we'll talk a little bit about that. I know I'm kind of preaching to the choir, so why solar? So you can kind of see here just some of the benefits to this. I'm not going to spend much time on this. I know you're all familiar with some of these benefits, but when we're talking to the community, these become more in play. And this presentation I'm giving you is what we shared at the launch event. This will be a semblance of what we'll share with other HOAs or community centers. This is basically our presentation that we'll use to kind of help promote the program. So this is a kind of a plug and play kind of a program. We've already, like I've said, vetted the contractors. So we had a bidding process where the coalition kind of looked at the bids that we received. They actually put the RFP together, put it out for bid, and then vetted the contractors that we received. Looked at the materials in terms of what the battery technology is, what the solar panels are, the inverters. So all that's been kind of looked at and vetted. Through the bidding process, we have a predetermined discount pricing. So right off the bat, you're starting out at about a 20% discount over MSRP. And then if you look at the way it's set up, when you go to the website for Solar Crowdsource, you'll be able to see that if we get to the lowest tiered pricing, which I'll show you here in a second, it's possible to get up to about a 26% discount overall. And that doesn't include your tax credits if those are available to you. So we're hoping that this participation in this program gives people some assurance that it's trusted and safe, because we know there's lots of stories out there of some solar installers that are kind of taking advantage of residents. There was one that happened maybe a month and a half ago over in Independence, and it blew my mind. It was on the news. It was like $50,000 for I think it was like a 5 kilowatt system, which is just crazy. And what was even crazier is that the homeowner did not see any reduction in their energy bill. So needless to say, that particular vendor is now using a different name and a different website. So you got to watch out for those things. And we're hoping that with our program, you've got some assurance, you've got a good quality installer, and you got the backing of the local coalition. All right, so again, we'll just kind of skip through these things here, but some of the top 5 reasons why you want to do this now. These are the federal tax credits that are going to be phasing out unless there's some changes made at the federal level. So you can see 26% this year, 22% next year, and then they're phased out. As I've mentioned, you can get up to a 25. I ran the numbers myself. I came up with 26% group purchase. So starting out, it's about 20, and then if we get through all of the 8 tiers of pricing, it's probably closer to 26%. Actually, is the group purchase discount that you will get if you participate. If we get enough, and it's rough. It's tough to come up with how many houses. People have been asking me how many houses. It's based on the kilowatts aggregated for all of those that participate. So I kind of roughballed it. If we have 7 kilowatt systems, I think we have to get to 351 kilowatts aggregated. So that's about maybe 50 homes, we'll say, somewhere in that ballpark to get to the lowest pricing tier. Let's see, additional tax incentives for commercial projects. Not as familiar on the commercial side as I'm on the residential, so that this is one of the perks there for the commercial side. And of course, the whole solar, one of the benefits, of course, is it's a hedge against the utility rates going up. So you end up getting that locked into a long-term hedge against that inflation related to energy costs. So yeah, and there is the net metering that is available, and in Missouri, that's 1-for-1, so something that is worth considering. This is the tiered pricing that I've been talking about. So essentially, right when we start out, we're all starting out at tier 1 and at $2.70 a watt. So if you kind of have an idea what size system that you might need or have, or maybe you already received a bid that you want to kind of try to do an apples to apples comparison, then you can kind of do the math and just try to come up with a ballpark price. As you can see, as we aggregate more and more contracts, by the time we get to 351 kilowatts, that gets us to the lowest tier pricing at $2.55 a watt. So kind of a nice deal. There are, additional costs that might fall into play. Kind of depends on your home. So whether you need, some type of structural support for the roofing, that maybe your roof isn't capable of handling it. Maybe you want to address more energy efficiency, which we certainly are encouraging you do. This particular vendor will offer that. So that is an additional cost, as if you want them to do more insulation in the attic for you, more other types of energy efficiency upgrades. That is available through this program. So you can kind of see this was kind of for a 5 kilowatt sample. You can kind of see the price of the systems. Starting out tier 1. I have not had a chance to play with this one too much yet, so I have not played with this table here, but I'll have to study this a little bit more. Apologize for that. Haven't had a lot of time to go through a lot of these slides in any detail yet. Commercial pricing, this is available to commercial entities as well, has a little bit different pricing scheme to it. So you can kind of see how that falls out for the commercial pricing. And you might have mentioned, or I might have mentioned batteries, or you might have seen it in the slides. Batteries are available. The Tesla Firewall is available. There is not a bulk purchase price on that per se. I think the very first one, if we sell one of those, it's $15,000. And after that, each additional one might be $14,000. So Tesla's very strict about discounts on their products, and the vendor, the installer here, just can't seem to get a bulk price on that. So if people want to add that to their systems, they're certainly welcome to that. We'll have that capability, but that's the one part of the program. You're not going to see a bulk purchase price necessarily for it. So, all right. Important dates to know. We've already talked about the launch, which was on Monday. October 31st is the deadline to enroll, which basically means that you are showing interest in the program and that you want the installer to reach out to you to do the analysis and the assessment to see if you're a good candidate for solar. And that usually includes providing your utility bills for a year. It may include a visit to your site to look at your structural supports. They're going to do as much as they can virtually with you. And then if you are still committed to the project, then that usually will lead to a site visit where they actually come in and check your weatherization, your energy efficiency, your structural supports, roof condition. And that's something to mention as well as, you really hope, you really want to try, because these solar panels are going to go, 25 years or longer. You want to try to put them on a roof that's fairly new, so I think they were suggesting on Monday, you hope to have a new roof or one that's up to 5, 6, 7 years old at the most, because realistically, the solar panels may outlast your roofing shingles or your roofing materials. So you want to try to avoid having to take your solar panels off to replace the roof and then put the solar panels back on. Not that that can't be done, it's just an additional cost you might have to deal with years down the road. So October 31st is the time to enroll, and that helps drive people to the campaign and creates that sense of urgency so we can get the best pricing available. You have until the end of the year to contract, so you have that much time to decide and to sign the contract for the residential. Commercial, it's actually March 31st, so we understand that usually with commercial or nonprofits, you have a board to deal with sometimes, a few more presentations to convince people to move forward with the project. So therefore, that is pushed back to March 31st of next year. And I guess the one thing that it doesn't have on this timeline I just thought of is that, the question is, when can you expect it to be done by? So the contractor has committed to having all the installations complete by June of next year. So obviously, if you want to take advantage of the tax credits this year, the sooner you sign up, the sooner you contract, the more likely you're going to get your installation done this calendar year. However, all of those that want to participate and sign contracts, the contractor is committed to trying to get everybody in at least by June of next year. So when you're dealing with the whole metropolitan area, which is what this program is available to, we're not sure how many we're going to get. So there is some wiggle room there, but hopefully June of next year. And they are already committed to getting started this week on meeting with customers. So the selected contractor is Sun Solar. Pretty good company, 10 years in the business. They are out of Springfield, and essentially they are offering a 25-year warranty on the solar panels, 25-year workmanship warranty, which is one of the best in the industry across the country, hands down. And then I believe on the inverters, it was 10 years for the inverter, for the warranty on the inverters. They've got 140-ish employees across the state of Missouri. They've got 4 locations. Even though they're out of Springfield, they have an office here in Kansas City and 3 other locations in the state. And they can mobilize that staff to Kansas City for this campaign to the point where they said they could do up to 7 installations a week. So that's pretty good. It takes about 2 days on average to do a solar install for them, 1 to 2 days. So that is that. So that ends the slideshow, I believe. Yep, let me stop sharing. All right.
Wow.
There you go. So Jensen, Araceli, I see you're on here too. You've been sitting in there for um, Dina. Dina Newman's been involved with this, so she's been sitting in on our coalition meetings. So I'll just open up to Jensen or Araceli, if there's anything you want to mention. And I can certainly talk about Share the Sun, which is our low moderate income part too. So, but Jensen, anything I missed other than the Share the Sun?
No, I thought that was great. The only thing I will mention for those who haven't been to Operation Breakthrough's Ignition Lab, which is where we had the event, Operation Breakthrough is a great partner. They do before and after school programming, and this last year, with support of a group of folks, they took an old muffler shop that was across the street from the original Operation Breakthrough location and converted it into a renewables laboratory for high school. They've even got a stall over there with Mind Drive co-locating, but they're working on solar and wind and hydroponics, and it's a great site. So it's worth all of us knowing about, and certainly there are volunteer opportunities also if something you're interested in, go down there. They were a great host for the launch of this event.
Yeah, the launch event went pretty well. I think somebody told me they counted about 50 to 60 people there. So really good, strong turn. I know we had at least 60 registered to be there, but that apparently was about what we had in numbers. So that was really good. Yeah, Araceli.
The only thing I wanted to mention that we've been discussing in the meetings is that, as you mentioned, because some people's homes are older and their roofs aren't as stable or as in good conditions, they might not be able to get solar panels on their house, or because of the sun or trees or circumstances like that. So we have been discussing referring them to other local organizations that can help them weatherize their homes or certain things like that, so we can still reduce their utility bills, even if we don't implement solar panels or prepare them. So maybe in the next year they could implement solar panels.
And so with that, let me just talk about Share the Sun, which might answer any questions you might have right now. So Share the Sun is the low and moderate family income family program. So it'll be rolled out in the next probably 2 to 3 weeks or so. The idea is, of course, is to subsidize for low income families 100% of the cost of the installation, I believe up to 4 megawatt or 4 kilowatts for the system. For moderate income, we're looking at a 50% subsidy. So we're still trying to figure out where the cutoffs are. That's still being discussed. We still have some details about the program. So I don't want to really go into a lot of details and promise anything that isn't quite set in stone yet. But what's going to happen is I'm trying to kind of seed that program through city dollars. So I've got a couple of options on that, and there's certainly a lot of interest internal to the city to provide some amount of funding towards Share the Sun. I'm kind of visioning kind of a challenge, whether it's a mayor's challenge or whatever, so that once we seed that fund, then to basically reach out to our charitable organizations out there and see if they would match or contribute or whatever. And we're also talking about just making it available for anybody to donate or offer, so $10, $15, whatever you can offer can go into this pot of money that we can use to provide solar installations for low income, moderate income families. So that's generally what Share the Sun's about. We didn't want to, it wasn't quite ready to roll out, but we felt it was more important to get this overall campaign launched for the whole metropolitan area. Again, this goes all the way across. We actually just got a map the other day. They're mapping where the people are contacting us and signing up. So you can kind of see the distribution across the metropolitan area. And it's pretty cool. It's predominantly Kansas City, but we got Johnson County jumping in, Olathe, Blue Springs, Lee Summit. It's a pretty nice dispersion throughout the whole city. So really kind of fun, kind of cool. All right, so I guess I can take some questions. Scott, looks like I see your hand up.
Yeah, sure. Wow, I have mine's more of a comment than a question. I came in a little bit late, and that looks great. That's really awesome. You've been able to put that together. My question is really the slides that were being shown. Is that something that is going to be distributed to the group, or I see that you've just posted a link. Is that where the slides are at, or
So
tell
the
me,
link I
tell me
just
what you
posted,
know.
the posting is to the website actually that the community can use to sign up. So go ahead and you can click on that. It'll take you to the Solarize Kansas City website. And so from there, you can actually see how many people have signed up so far. You can sign up yourself if you haven't already signed up to get your free evaluation. But it also goes into, shows you the coalition. You have some testimonials from folks that have used Sun Solar. You've got the pricing breakdown on the tiers. And there's lots of other information there. I mean, it just depends on how much you want to kind of spend in there. They're also identifying, and this is important to some people, what the components are. So you can kind of take a look at what the modules are, the racking, the inverter, all that, and kind of see what currently that's what's being offered. Okay.
Okay, great, thanks.
But yeah, the PowerPoint presentation, I'm going to clean it up a little bit because I literally just got it this morning. And to be honest with you, that was my first go through of it. I glanced at it. I've been in council meetings all day, so I didn't have enough time with it as I would have liked. But yeah, you might get cleaned up before I send it out to you.
Are there other questions or comments?
Yeah, Jerry, I think you were first.
Yeah, thank you. Is there any tie-in with the state of Missouri's solar program, which is purportedly a no-cost solar program?
I would say no, not yet. I have some meetings set up with some folks from the state to talk about this. So I don't know how that's going to tie into what you're talking about, but I would say, no, I'm not familiar with what you're saying.
Okay.
There is, the only thing that at the state level, which come up, maybe not related to what you brought up, was about the legislation moving forward on, restrictions on HOAs on solar. And so we've got some folks kind of keeping an eye on that because there were some other components to that bill that seem pretty important towards our climate activities here in Kansas City. But seems like they've got support, and I've heard someone say that made it through the legislature and is just waiting for the governor to sign off on it. So I see Ben shaking his head. If we can confirm that, that's my understanding at this point. So.
All right. And the reason I'm asking is that they're advertising online now. Okay. For people to sign up for it, and it's a free energy consultation. You don't pay anything up front to get solar on the roof, but payments start within about 18 months. So there's a deferred payment on it.
Yeah. Yeah. So somebody has mentioned that to me. I'll need to look into it more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Ben?
Yeah, I was wondering, so I used to work for Sun Solar, and just out of professional curiosity, I think a lot of people, even if the cost of the installation gets cut down to like $12,000 for a 9 kilowatt, which is like crazy good for that kind of thing. If you can get 300 plus homeowners to sign up for it, so a lot of people are still going to need some kind of financing. Do you know what kind of financing options they're using as a suite?
I need to write that down on a card. Yes, they've mentioned, I don't have it right in front of me, but yeah, there were three different financing options. There were sort of like green banks that there are relationships that they apparently have nationally. so that they apparently have an interest in renewable energy. I apologize, I don't have it right in front of me, but I could certainly supply it and provide it to the commission. They're also offering, besides access to those financing options, they've got, I don't know if they had this when you were there, Ben, but they have a leasing option as well.
Yeah, they did.
Okay,
Oh.
yeah. So they're offering the leasing option as well. They said it's tailored probably more for moderate income families, to be able to somehow utilize that tax credit in a way that they maybe not normally would be able to use the tax credit.
Sure, sure.
Yeah. So you may know it better than I do, but again, it's not one I've been able to get into the weeds on, but it seems very interesting that they came up with an option that might give some folks opportunity here.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that when I was working in the field, I did a lot of consultations that were real heartbreakers in central Kansas City, just because the low and medium income households had real structural issues. So, that weatherization and home improvement financing component, if we could build that out, I mean, obviously it's already launched, so that's not going to happen at this point. But yeah, if there's another iteration of this in the future, to have the biggest impact for those communities, that's going to be really big.
Well, and it's not any secret why we sort of partnered with Westside Housing and Jerusalem Farm, because they already doing weatherization, structural stuff. And so when we talked with them, they were like, hey, if we can provide you feedstock of houses that we know we've already done some things for that makes them solar ready, can you do the solar part? I'm like, yeah, heck yeah. So that's where we're going to start with focusing on those areas. Not that we're going to exclude any other low, moderate income families in other parts of the city, but we certainly have enough homes to start with in those two particular areas where Westside and Jerusalem Farm are already working. And Jerusalem Farm, they're also going to be mobilizing the AmeriCorps as well to kind of help with some structural things and other things. So yeah, we've got some momentum already in that area, but yeah.
Great, thanks. Yeah, and I would love to see the financing stuff just whenever you get a chance.
Yep.
If there are not, did you talk to Scott? Did you say what you wanted to say already? Yes.
Yeah, I'm good, Carol.
Okay. Andy, are you ready to go ahead with the OEQ report?
Sure. Okay, so let's see where to start. Let's do the SPIRE resolution. We'll just call it that. I don't have the number in front of me, but it's we'll just call it the SPIRE resolution. So essentially, as you know, that went in front of TIO 2 weeks ago, and Councilman O'Neill is the one that introduced that. I know that we'd seen a previous iteration of that was kind of shared with us by Councilwoman Shields back, what was that, a month or so ago. We pulled that back because it just wasn't ready to kind of be shared at that point, and to take it any further. Councilman O'Neill picked it up 2 weeks ago, introduced it, and for whatever reason, when it got to committee, he held it. So my impression is he wasn't really ready to talk about it, or wasn't, just didn't have everything lined up. So it was held, and we went back to committee this morning, and they announced that they were going to hold it again. So it's going to be held for 4 more weeks. So that's where that is at. So interesting development on that, but anyways, SPIRE resolution held for 4 weeks.
Okay, so Andy, I'm kind of naive or dumb on these legislative processes. When something is held, does that typically mean anything, or?
Yeah, it basically gives time for council to get their ducks in a row, or in this case, Councilman O'Neill seems to me he's on his own at this point. From what I've seen and heard through the grapevine, he doesn't have consensus. He doesn't have a coalition of council members that are supporting him on this. So I think he's, Spire has obviously been meeting with council for a while, definitely over the past, there must be conversations, could be emails or whatever. And I'm not sure why he chose to take this on for them, but essentially, I just don't think he has all the information he needs yet. So when you put something on hold, it usually gives folks, council, time to meet with whoever he feels he needs to meet with to get a better understanding of the resolution or ordinance.
Okay,
So
yep. Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, they don't have to necessarily provide a reason why they're holding it. They just put it out there. It was held. So I'm like, okay. So I packed up and I left. So sort of related to that, then we'll move into the climate plan. So
Wait, Andy, before you move on, I have a quick question because call me dense, but I'm just really curious about why this resolution is coming up and necessary. Didn't the state of Missouri basically passed a preemption law that prevents any subordinate municipality from doing exactly what the resolution says in the first place? So is this just icing on the cake?
Yeah, I mean, partly so. I mean, it may be, I think what it is meant to do is to try to kind of hold the city. I mean, I think the state's preemption is about keeping the cities from, dictating that we can't have a certain energy, for the residential or whatever.
Right.
I think in this case, this resolution does more to tie the hands of council when it comes to making decisions about what we do for ourselves in terms of city operations or facilities. That's one way to interpret this. So,
okay,
that is an argument that may be made is to council is why do this? What are you gaining out of this? You have all the flexibility you need to make decisions and policies on how we use energy here in city operations or whatever. You don't need to tie your hands with a resolution like this.
Right.
So,
okay.
Yeah, and so the commission provided a comment letter, and I appreciate that. That's been shared with the mayor and council. It's been entered in as testimony in regards to that particular resolution. So that's been done. And so did the Climate Protection Steering Committee. Both committees met, appreciated you all getting together to do that. Both submitted letters in opposition to the resolution. And I provided both letters to the mayor and council, and both were submitted to the clerk's office as testimony.
Right. The part of the resolution that just is a huge head scratcher to me every time I see it is just like this constant and consistent references to low-income communities and their utility and energy justice burdens, because it's not moving in that direction. Like, this is certainly not going to help those communities moving forward. So, yeah, it's just really curious.
Yeah, and so if and when it shows up again in 4 weeks, well, I tried to, I got there early enough. I found out pretty quickly. I tried to send a text out to those I thought might come out. But one thing is that Councilwoman Shields was definitely encouraging anybody from the EMC and the Climate Protection Steering Committee to definitely try to be there to provide in-person testimony. So, letters have been submitted. If and when possible, when this comes back up, I certainly encourage you to be there.
Okay.
Somebody. So.
I'll hop in really
Go ahead,
quick.
Michael.
I was just going to say, I'll hop in really quick and just say that the last time this was before the committee, before Councilman O'Neill requested a hold, I was there with Jensen and Andy. So on behalf of both EMC and Climate Protection Steering Committee. So whenever it comes back, as I'm sure Andy will let us know, I will definitely try to be there if no one else from EMC is able to attend.
Cool. Okay, any other questions about that resolution? Okay, so the climate protection resilience plan, essentially where we are with that, the steering committee had back last month had gone through all the comments, 700 plus comments. Michael did a great job distilling that down for everybody to be able to digest that. Monumental task there. So thank you, Michael, for that. And the steering committee kind of went through its recommendations based on that analysis. Those recommendations were voted on by the steering committee and passed on then to Brendel, our consultant, to begin incorporating changes to the plan from the latest round of comments. So we gave Brendel had it for two weeks maybe to do that, to update it, make the changes necessary. And from there, it was to go to the city manager. So the city manager had requested that the next iteration was to be submitted to him and his staff to review first. So I followed the direction of my boss, and that's what we did. So it went to the city manager. He's had it for a while. We did meet, Laura and myself met with the city manager and talked through some of the issues, concerns. I would say that I will just say that in general, that was a very positive meeting. Went really well, surprisingly well. And so from there, I was given the direction by the city manager to share it with council. So one of the reasons for that, couple of reasons. One is even though it's our intention to do a business session to basically introduce the plan in front of the public to council, we felt that with the Spire resolution or the energy code, which is out there right now, that there was enough going on all across the board, even Solarize KC, that we wanted to make sure council saw now the context of what is driving all of this. So I told the city manager, I said, I feel it's important. We got to get this to council now. I got too many things going on that they don't have that context of what the community said they need. And so he agreed. So we sent the plan fully recognizing it is draft. So here it is. We want them to get an opportunity to comment, to provide concerns, to meet with us and staff to answer any questions behind the scenes. Because one thing I did not want to happen also is to introduce it to council in a business session where they can fully ask questions, but I didn't want to be caught in a position in the business session where they're asking super hard questions that we haven't heard yet or seen yet, and we might be unprepared to answer. So wanted to try to address those issues behind the scenes with council so that we minimize that to some extent. But the bigger issue for me was they got to know what are we saying about the energy code? You know, why is it not necessary for the Spire resolution? You know, there was a lot of rumor that the plan was, dictating this or that. We want to get it out there. So that's what we did. It's been with council for a little over a week now. Going to try to wrap up their review of this here in the next week. And then from there, my intention is take it, assuming there's not anything that needs to be tweaked or adjusted by Brendel, we'll take it right to the Climate Protection Steering Committee for them to review it. I'm not sure, whatever Michael and Robin and the committee, however long they feel they need to look at it, it's going to be in their hands. We're not going to dictate that, but I'll be honest with you, the sooner we can get this across the finish line, the better. So, we'll just need to know how long the steering committee needs to review it, to basically get it in front of, into a meeting where you can vote and hopefully vote to endorse the plan. Because that's where we don't want to go to council without the endorsement of the steering committee. So that's, for us, it's the next vital step. We've already drafted the resolution that we can use to carry the plan to council to adopt the plan. So that's already been drafted and ready to go. So we'll share that with the steering committee as well when we have that meeting. So everything will be provided in as a package, and it'll be up to the steering committee to sign off on our next step. After that, business session is what we were thinking for presentation, with going to then introducing the resolution and following that legislative process very shortly thereafter. So that's the overall game plan.
I'll just add really quick that I think that the Climate Protection Steering Committee is kind of eager to get moving on this. I know I certainly am. So as soon as we get everything back, I'm going to be pushing to make sure that, you know, we get whatever changes need to be done in as quickly as possible so that we can approve it and get it sent on to the full council for their consideration.
Yep. No, I understand that for sure. So we, trust me, there's in-house staff-wise, we are super eager to get this across the finish line. So, but I want to make sure I'm hitting all the, you know, the needs of the city manager, the council, and of course the steering committee. So it's just trying to do this balancing act as best as I can. I really think that there's a really strong possibility we might be able to bring it to you guys early next week. So stay tuned. Marty?
I just wondered, did the commission get to see the plan or not? I see Ben shaking his head. Good.
Yeah, the earlier iteration, sure. The first draft was out for 30 days.
Okay.
And Andy, actually, I don't know the answer to this one. So have the updates been updated on the website and scorecard case? So that is the most up-to-date version that there is, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So what's on the website is not the latest iteration. That is all still, it's with council right now. What's on the website is what you saw originally. That won't be, will not be updated until the steering committee gets a chance to get it first, so before the public. Yep, one step at a time.
When will we be looking at it again? Are we just going to get a notice when the website is updated?
Yeah, I would suggest, I mean, if you want to see it, you'd probably be in tune with when the steering committee looks at it in their meeting. So if that's when you probably get a chance there to see it. But I'm guessing, you know, not until they probably endorse it with whatever changes or amendments, things that they need, will we post it publicly.
Okay, and then when would we need to provide any formal recommendation to the mayor and council regarding it?
Yeah, that's, of course, once that resolution is introduced, then that's when, you know, you'll have to have your testimony ready to be in support or whatever. So again, I don't have a hard, fast date on that. Like I said, we're just trying to, it's literally week by week, we're trying to do this. So I'm looking at, and the other thing that throws a wrench in the works on this is council sometimes meets the weeks when there's a holiday on a Monday, and sometimes they don't. And so I'm trying to figure out, I think they are meeting the week of June 20th, because we have a holiday that Monday. That's the Juneteenth holiday. So they're going to be in session. So that's sort of in play. But then I believe the 4th of July week, they will not be available then. So it's a matter of scheduling the business session, introducing the legislation, and in such a way that we get this timed right, hopefully before Laura goes off on her vacation in mid-July. That's the plan.
So you think we will have an opportunity to discuss this at our July meeting? Which is, I think,
The 13th?
yeah.
Well, committee meetings are on Wednesday. So if the legislation is introduced before then it would actually show up in committee on that Wednesday that you would have your meeting. If we're going full force fast here.
Okay, but it wouldn't be before council then until what, Thursday?
Yeah, so
Only
if
if they
if it
did
were
an emergency due pass kind of thing?
right, so like the committee, assuming that it goes to either transportation or finance, which I'm assuming it's going to go one of those places, then it would probably be, yeah, it at earliest, unless if they do an in advance and do pass, and it would go to council the next day. And I mean, if there's enough support on the committee it gets assigned to, then that's a very real possibility. Carol, are you asking about this because you would want to be able to, convene us to discuss it a little bit further and provide some sort of formal recommendation one way or the other on the plan to committee? Is that something
Well,
that
I
you're
think
asking about?
I think we might want to do that, but if there's so much support that it gets an emergency due pass, it may not be critical that we can congratulate them afterwards, So I guess we can kind of just play that by ear and see. I do not want to get us in the middle of the Climate Protection Steering Committee's process in any way. I want them to be able to finish and feel like they've had their chance to steward this through the process. And so if we can be helpful, that's one thing. If it's going great guns, then I think maybe we congratulate everybody afterwards. I don't know what the sense of the rest of you is regarding that.
Yeah, I will definitely keep you posted if I need to, week by week, just to say, this is where we are. But as soon as I know when it's going to be legislatively introduced and in front of the committee, I'll at least let you know. And if you wanted to get together to put together a letter of support, we can certainly arrange that for you. Or you could just have folks come down and speak, testify, whatever, either way.
Okay. Well, I do think we maybe just need to play it by ear.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to answer any additional questions about CPSC's work if folks have questions about that. So.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, it's as we get closer to the end, it becomes interesting. We've had so many little steps now that we're trying to navigate just to make sure we're getting everybody's needs met. So it's taking a little longer than I'd like, but I think it's giving everybody an opportunity to at least review it internally. Marty, did you have another question?
Yeah, I would really like to see what is said about soil and its role in the whole thing.
Did you look?
I didn't. I looked at something, but I'm not sure. Is it still up?
Yeah, the original draft is still available on our website.
Okay.
So Laura or Marlene, if you can drop the link in the chat, then Marty can grab it there.
Okay, good. Thanks. So well, I don't know if it's been changed or not by whoever. So, okay.
I mean, with the soil piece, I mean, thinking through the comments and everything, I don't think that there were a whole lot of recommendations for significant changes on the soil piece. So, just thinking
Actually,
off the top of my head, I don't think
there were some recommendations. Actually, the best place to probably see that you can see the CPSC recommendations that they made. All of their recommendations are attached to the last meeting minutes for their meetings, and I'll drop that in chat for you guys. But there was quite a bit on soils involvement. So we did change some wording specifically to add more information on soils. I'll let you look at that. I'll actually link directly to those minutes if you give me just a minute.
Sure.
Thank you for clarification.
That's
Laura.
okay. I sat in on that work group, so.
Yeah, and it just occurred to me too about the minutes with the changes made would be a great document to review until they get a chance to see the actual revised plan. Okay. Ben, did you have another question?
Yeah, I mean, this is just a quick question for Michael. I remember, watching the Climate Protection Steering Committee meeting in which you went through your presentation of the different, hundreds of comments and that kind of thing, and then went through the different recommendations with the steering committee itself. And then just today, a friend of mine who is active with the Sunrise movement resent their list of demands that they had, and some of them, were utopian and just fantastic, but like not necessarily something that you could like put in a climate protection and resiliency plan. And then others of
Sure.
them actually made more specific sense in terms of like the Justice 40 initiative that you can find out information about in terms of the federal government's desire to, push 40% of investments into Black and underserved communities and people of color. Did those types of requests from the Sunrise movement make it into changes in the newest draft?
Yes and no. Michael, did you want to talk to that?
Sure, and then
All right.
correct me if I miss anything here. So
Sure.
like, so in general, the recommendations that were added in were the ones that are actually feasible for the city to do. So there were some that were requested by the city that were either something that was outside of the city's purview, or in some instances, because of preemption from the state level, the city does not currently have the authority to do. So in those instances, it's not that the city doesn't want to do it; it's that they're unable to do it, and that's kind of the general piece. Laura, I'm not sure if there's anything more you wanted to add on for that.
Yeah, I know. And some of it was just there were so many things and they wanted large strategies with large explanations, but really what they were asking for already fit under an existing strategy.
Right.
So
Mhm.
some of what it is we just literally added and green social housing to a strategy, or
Mhm.
and gentrification, or and tenants to a strategy. So
Yep.
I think we might get some pushback that we didn't put it in, but it's there.
Right.
It's just not, we didn't want a 700-page climate plan.
It wasn't in the specific language
Right.
that they submitted.
And
Yeah.
and there were also some parts where we as a committee, either in subgroups or as the full committee, said, what they're asking for here is something that the city shouldn't necessarily oppose, but it's going to require more than what even the Sunrise folks are putting forth. So like one example there was this idea of gentrification. It's not
Yeah.
that we disagree with the idea that gentrification is real. It is a concern and it is something that needs to be addressed. But the recommendation from the committee was that is something that the city should work on as a whole. It should not be limited to the work of the Climate Protection Steering Committee working on the development of this plan.
Because it supersedes and it historically has,
Right.
been around for longer than we've been working on the plan in the first place.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And one of the things we talked about is we literally don't have a completely agreed on definition of what gentrification and green gentrification mean to us as a
Mhm.
city in Kansas City. And we really talked through that a lot. And one of the recommendations was we need to get that definition going and get that figured out to
Mhm.
move some of this stuff forward.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
No, I mean, I think the component that interested me the most is just the portion that would have, put in some kind of standard for where contracts and projects went in terms of workforce training and either energy efficiency work or green infrastructure work and that kind of thing. Again, we're talking about strategies and actions as a plan right now. These kinds of things have to be fleshed out with actual partners, and I think that's one of the things that we're going to kind of get into the weeds in a little bit in terms of our annual report conversation here in a couple minutes.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, that was the portion of what they were talking about that I was like, planting a flag about that might not be a bad idea.
Right. So yeah, I mean, for the most part, I think there were things that we largely agreed with them on. It's just that the things that if they didn't make it in, it's either it didn't make it in the way that they wanted, or staff literally can't put it in because there's
Sure.
something that supersedes their authority to do so.
Or it doesn't belong in a climate plan.
Right.
Sure.
Like I can tell you for a fact they wanted defunding the police in the climate.
I saw
plan,
that.
and that's
Yeah.
not going to happen in the
Like,
climate plan. That's not
right.
the place for
No,
it.
I mean, we had a rough draft at that, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. All right, any other questions about the update on the climate plan?
And
I
I
don't
did
see any.
drop, I did drop the link directly to the CPSC minutes right above the actions that I put in there for Marty, where we added more information on soils to N1 and N2. I just put it in chat for you, but you can definitely go through that document of the CPSC recommendations.
Thank you.
Okay, and I have two more things to cover real quick, but they're real brief. Energy code. So the energy code went in front of committee today. They there had already been a kind of a public hearing process. Was it 2 weeks ago? I think it was now, where we basically had people just give testimony in one way or the other. It was in front of a very small group of council, but it was recorded, so that recording was supposedly shared with all of the council members. But today was the actual official first hearing or second hearing now in front of committee. So testimony was provided. It was about 50-50 or so pro and against the 2021 IECC. So the game plan going forward is that it's again going to be held until June 29th. So on June 29th is when it will come back to committee to decide whether it'll move forward in its current form. So the idea is to give council more time to talk to stakeholders about the code. This was more or less the first official step in that process, but they're going to hold it until the 29th to make a final decision among the committee before it goes to full council. So that's today, the energy code. And
Andy, let
yeah.
me ask you to expound just a little bit on what kind of objections you were hearing in the testimony.
Oh, it's all affordability. It's so far. I mean, Laura, you were tuned in. I don't know who else was listening in today, but you know, I got to sit among BOMA and the group there, and you know, for them, it's you know, they like to say that you know, new construction today is somewhere around $400,000. You're going to add $30,000 on top of that to comply with the new energy code. So that is going to price people out of the market. So that's one message that they keep saying. They also, yeah, no payback, particularly on that. They're worried about, you know, hey, if you're going to do this in Kansas City, we're going to take our business elsewhere kind of thing. We'll just build in other cities. There aren't any other cities in the metropolitan area that have adopted it. So we would be kind of standalone and different from the other cities. So that was another concern. Training of inspectors, being able to bring staff up to speed, staffing even in our city planning department would have to be improved, or up, you know, we'd have to bring more people on board. So those are just some of their concerns. You know, on the other side, it's, you know, contrary to some of that stuff on the affordability, you know, we talk about energy burden, we talk about, you know, the cost of paying, you know, those energy bills. What does that look like? So yeah, that I would say that's the best way to summarize the objections.
When we first had communication about this code several years ago, we had some pretty good fact sheets about costs and things. And I don't remember whether some of that was from the Sierra Club and some of that was maybe from the professionals. Oh, Jerry, do you know, I see your hand up and down. or some of
Yeah.
it was from the building professionals that worked on the code. But it might be really timely to update or resend any updates of that information or provide it to the next hearing.
Yeah, and by no means, I mean, there is a local coalition of folks here. That's Jeremy Knoll, of course, that met with the commission back, what was that, pre-COVID? That's been what, 2 years ago?
Yeah.
But, if you remember, he presented. So he and several others with Sierra Club and others have been very diligent in meeting with council, providing documents and, all of that kind of information. So, yeah, rest assured, a lot of that has already been provided to council. Go ahead, Jerry.
I don't think I would add much to that in terms of what was done most recently. Carol, what you were referring to, last time the city provided in-depth economic analysis was when we had the funds from Department of Energy under the stimulus program, the ERA funds. We paid Midwest Energy Efficiency Alliance. Is that who we paid? Anyway, out of Chicago, to do that analysis for us specific to the Kansas City market. So it was a paid service from an objective observer with an appropriate reputation that was acceptable by all parties, as long as the city was paying for it. So that kind of analysis has not been done since that I'm aware of.
Well, so do you feel like the information to counter the cost arguments is available to the council through the other comments that were received?
Yeah, I mean, I feel that from what I've heard from Joyce, Raybuck, Jeremy, several others, and Billy in Sierra Club, he's copying me on much of what they're submitting, and they're providing all that kind of stuff. So you got the DOE, and their analysis, their determination of the energy code, and that was, versus the 2018, which we're not even at the 2018. So, overall, I think it was a 9% improvement on energy efficiency and greenhouse gas reduction. So, factor we're at 2012. So I don't know what the jump is from 12 to 18, but yeah, I have a pretty good feeling that they've already done that. So, a lot of what I heard today was, the same as what I've already heard. And to be honest with you, I think that is available on the city's YouTube channel. So if you want to watch the public hearing where a lot of that stuff was presented, that might be a good resource just to go to see what's already been said. Because I saw it recently on Channel 2 just yesterday or the day before, and that was definitely, it had been recorded, so it's out there to be seen.
Well, would you let us know as far in advance as you can of when the next hearing is? Maybe that's one of those things that we just to make sure there are enough people there to.
Yeah, plan for June 29th. That's
Same thing.
That's the next date, is June 29th is when that committee will come back together.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, we just need to get that done.
Yep. And the last thing I was just going to mention today is the Environmental Achievement Awards. So Laura, you want to mention or say something to that?
Andy, can I just ask one more question about the energy code before we go to that?
Yeah, okay.
Hasn't this always happened? I mean, we had changes to the energy code before. Like, this is not the first time that this has ever happened.
Yeah. This is interesting because they're trying to, their argument today was as if this is new, like this approach, which is slightly new in the sense that we did not bring the two sides together into a room. And Jerry, I know you were there with me, I think, and when we all met with BOMA and, Sierra Club and all that, and that meeting didn't go anywhere. So this time around, city planning was like, why do we need to do that again? Let's have them discuss this in a more public forum in front of council, because council are the ones that are going to make the decision. Putting staff in the middle of that, that's not going to, we're not getting anywhere with this.
Mhm.
So today, I would say the opposition, that was their approach today was, hey, why can't we all just get along and get together and work out a version of the code that works for Kansas City? So that's
Right.
the angle that they're sort of taking now is we believe in energy efficiency, but we want affordability. So we need to work together to work this out.
All right. I mean, it just kind of boggles my mind because according to the ordinance, if and correct me if I'm wrong, like there's not that much that's like being proposed to be amended out of the code that they're changing. So regardless of what happens, these firms are going to have to rework how they do things in Kansas City, Missouri. So what I'm at a loss as to why it matters if you like have to learn an entirely new upgrade versus like everything except this, you know?
Yeah. Now the architects a lot of architects came out today, made a strong argument that, it's if Kansas City, we would be the first. But hey, we're also one of the largest in the metropolitan area, and we need to be a leader. And the city council has been setting these climate goals, and this is essentially their first opportunity to step up and implement something that matters and is in line with the goals that they've set. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. That's fine.
Jerry, did you have something else?
Oh, just an historical comment. I think if I'd say anything, and that addressing Ben's comments, that is when we adopted the 2012 code, one difference there is that the city of Kansas City was able to take some political cover, if you will, because Overland Park adopted the 2012 before Kansas City, Missouri even had hearings on it. So the argument with regard to we're going to take our marbles and go someplace else really had absolutely zero weight whatsoever, because the other single largest city in the region had already done it, and they had done it with HBA and BOMA and all those people at the table. So the process was a little bit different this time, but it's still the same. Every time, if you look historically, every time in the last 40 years, the city has updated its codes, the same argument has been applied. We're going to go someplace else, whatever. This is the first year, though, that I can recall where the foothold that they had was the context of the insane price increases that we've experienced, lending more credence to the inability to provide affordable housing issue.
Which is interesting because you would think that given the price of the materials and the supply stream that we have, you would want to build houses that would last longer and, perform better given the kind of restrictions that we have in that process. But, Carol, I do you want to talk at all about the draft letter that we put together before the previous hearing? Because the EMC, we did pass, we did, vote to send a letter in support of passing the IECC 2021 without weakening amendments. I drafted a letter and sent it to Carol. It hasn't been sent to council yet. It doesn't speak to affordability objections, but I think
It did get
does.
sent to council.
Oh, did it?
Yep. Yeah, we
Okay.
sent a letter. It may not have been sent to all of you, and we can make sure that happens.
Yeah,
but
you could
we
forward
did
it
send a
on.
letter. I think maybe this is just a numbers thing. They know where we stand, and if they're getting the correct information from the professionals, I think I think maybe it's more a FaceTime thing for us at this point than it is another letter when they just got one.
No, I'm not suggesting we send another letter. I didn't know that the first one was actually.
Yeah, it was sent.
It was sent? Okay. Cool, yeah. You could send it on, that would be great.
Are we ready to move on? Andy, was there anything else?
Yeah, I was just going to just give you a quick update on the Environmental Achievement Awards.
Oh, yes.
So last thing, I guess, Environmental Achievement Awards, we put it out on our internal site for employees. And then I followed up with an email to the directors and some of our normal submitters and pokers to get people to submit things. And so far we've received 3. They're due June 17th. So, you know, we've got a lot of last minute folks, and I'll do another last minute push next week to see who we get in. And hopefully we will. If we don't get more than 3, you guys interested in extending this? Or
We've had years where there were just 3 nominations before.
all right, sounds good. We might run with it then. I'll let you know how it goes. And as far as getting the committee set up to help review those, be thinking about who wants to be on that group. And I will either bug you all by email, or if you just want to self-select now on who wants to help review those.
Let me ask you something. When are we looking at the ceremony? With all of the activity on the climate protection plan, are we looking to wait until September to do the presentation?
I mean, we could probably do it in August if we wanted to. And I know we talked about definitely in person again. Carol, I think you'd said that in an earlier meeting. If we want to wait till September, just because the weather's nicer, a little bit cooler, and we could do it outside, or I don't know. It's up to you. We could do it either way.
I think there's interest on the commission in coming back to in-person meetings. I talked to Andy about it a little bit at the beginning of the meeting before we had a quorum. In which case we might try to do it someplace inside at one of the community centers again. But I'm kind of looking to you for your assessment of what works with your schedule with all you've got going on.
As long as it's not in July, because I'm going on vacation in July, you can't stop me. I'm fine. So if we do it, you know, early August, I'd prefer September. I think September would probably be, just give us a little more time, especially if we're not getting as many.
In the middle of a plan adoption process.
Yeah.
What do you think, Andy?
Yeah, I like September better.
Well, that would also give us a chance if we needed to extend the deadline. But let's see what we can get by the deadline, and then decide. You can send an email out and just kind of do a poll. We won't do an official vote. If it looks like people in general are we will make extending it the exception. Okay, a good plan?
Yeah. So Carol, I have an additional request that just kind of came across my desk. The assistant city manager saw the nomination form that Laura had sent out regarding the Environmental Achievement Awards. And she came back with the idea of having us do an award ceremony for small businesses. So she took the nomination form that the commission used and just made it for small businesses. And I was like, well, this is a commission thing. So basically, we can do it in-house as a city program or project, but the assistant city manager is wanting to know whether, Michael here, there we go, to see if the commission is interested in possibly taking on a similar award type ceremony for businesses.
My answer is not at the same time that we're doing the employees. I think recognizing the employees important and unique and they're not getting recognized. Now, I think if the city wants to recognize small businesses, that can be done too, but I don't think it should be folded into recognizing employees.
Right.
That's my personal opinion.
Okay, and I think I've convinced her that they can't be one and the same. They're two different things. So the question I would have for the commission is there interest in the commission to take this on? Or would you prefer the city just figure it out and we do it in-house?
Well, I think maybe the city could figure it out a little bit better and then talk to us about it. But I would be curious what criteria you would use for small business. I mean, I really would think for us to do it, would have to be incredibly innovational, not just, saving X amount of dollars or I don't know. That would be my opinion. I don't know where everybody else is.
Okay.
But maybe you guys could see what she's considering, it is considering about the criteria.
Andy, are there any other, or any of the other city staff, are there any other commissions that recognize private activities?
Yeah, so the one that comes to mind for me is not a city commission. It's the Green Business Network in concert with the Kansas City Industrial Council does their sustainability awards every fall in October. And so I'm on that committee or whatever that looks at those nominations. So that's the only thing I warned her about is, external parties that might do an award ceremony related to sustainability. So I didn't want to compete with those if we didn't have to.
And
That's
my
a great
question,
observation.
just to clarify, my question is not really about sustainability. It could be any example of where a commission is recognizing external.
I got you.
acts.
Yeah. That I do not know.
Molly?
I think encouraging businesses would be wonderful. I get that it might be better in the Green Business Network, but when my students do these little projects, they often do them at their places of employment, and they do lots of wonderful little things. And I think, if a business were going to do it on a larger scale, recognition is huge and big, and I think we ought to promote it, whether we actually do it or not. I'd be in favor of. There are all kinds of things businesses can be doing and being encouraged to continue them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that overall, this just seems like a much bigger conversation. Like we have the Environmental Achievement Awards and the city has much more control over its own operations and it has very distinct goals that it's working on. And then above and beyond that, when city employees want to, do something really innovative, we do want to recognize that. But, I just don't think that if we're going to do something for small businesses, that this format is appropriate for the scale that we would all want it to be.
Well, Andy, let's just see what the vision is. Okay. And if we decide that it's not something we want to take on, maybe we can make a better recommendation about who might be more appropriate.
And what about a joint EMC Green Business Council kind of a joint thing?
Oh, I think we can we can put everything on the table.
Okay, all right. We'll circle back to that. Thank you.
Okay. We need to move on to the annual report. I'm going to turn that over to Molly and Nate and Ben.
I nominate Nate.
Nate, your outline is really great. I mean, I love the format of kind of the flow of the table that you put forward for the top 3 issues. Yeah, and then I sent out just some information that I took out of the appendix of the climate protection and resiliency plan as it pertains to different community populations and regions and their own priorities that came out when we were doing outreach for them. And I sent that around to the rest of the commission just as, you know, if we want to kind of review some of their priorities and potentially like cherry pick those to put in our recommendations for the report, just as a resource for the commission, if any of you see anything that, you know, also resonates with you and you might want to expand on in the report itself. But Nate, do you want to talk to us a little bit about this wonderful, you know, draft that you sent out?
Sure. And thanks for the kind words, y'all. I mean, I think just keeping with what we talked about before, this was more about keeping it focused and tight on and running parallel and not perpendicular to the Climate Protection Steering Committee's work, and maybe drawing some attention to things that were, you know, what we think are timely, relevant, and necessary as a committee. And one of the other things we talked about was doing something that was had sort of the holy trinity of the equity is the why, equity piece is the why, and the sort of like what solutions are out there as the how, and then some partners as the who, and the partners piece is like by no means sort of like an endorsement of any of one organization over the other, but just more so like to draw people's attention to certain organizations, also reflected in the CPRP draft. I guess at this point, I don't know what sort of deadline we're operating under, other than like the sort of council taking up the CPRP, like and adopting it, hopefully, and like getting a final draft out there, and then maybe we pass this along as an extra nudge. I think the needs on this now are obviously everyone. It would be great if everyone contributed. It would be nice if we could get it fleshed out a little more. Just add some more maybe preamble language to each section. Strengthen the intro, strengthen the call to action at the end, build out the solution spotlights. I see Molly added some of those in her edits that she sent just back to me and not the whole group. So we can circulate that version around after the meeting. And then the last piece, just because I am big on that, on sort of making things look nice, is I don't know who we have that can do some graphic design, some layout. Is anyone able to pull up Canva and just start working magic in there? Like, you know, it'd be any and all help on that front, I think would be appreciated. You know, I'm just thinking of Michael's PowerPoint, which I thought was an effective way of doing it. While we usually turn in a report, I would really prefer that it not be a PDF Word document with some colorful boxes, but actually something that there was some time, a little time put into. I know that those things can be very consumptive of people's time, but I do want to highlight, bold, underline, and italicize the need for some graphic design on this. So yeah, that would be really great once we have the sort of content figured out. Other than that, I leave it to the committee to discuss. I will say the sort of top 3 issues are just, you know, the mobility and the buildings and homes are ones that we always come back to, and I think they also have the strongest equity implications. I also wanted to, the reason I chose for the third one, the circular economy part, is because, you know, I feel like that envelops a lot of the other conversations we had around soil regeneration, food, waste, and waste management. And it's sort of, it's not a catch-all, but in a way it sort of is, but they're all highly interrelated. I know that energy generation is also a big piece of the puzzle, but that gets a lot of attention. I think and there's been a lot of action on that, and there still should be moving forward. But I really think the focus on those three things feel like the strongest and most relevant, and maybe even in some ways they fly under the radar, even though they're incredibly important to all this. So, all right, I think that's it. Happy to answer any questions, but other than that, this is just a draft, and I do not hold any ego, or this is not my baby. This is just something to start pushing the boulder up the hill.
Laura,
oh, sorry.
who did the graphics for the climate protection plan?
That was all done by Brendel as part of the consulting contract. Except for most of the photos, which were all the city photos.
Yep.
Could you get a media student from UMKC to help?
I tried that the last time. I would absolutely ask again.
KC Art Institute?
Egghead is a student design group. And I'll send them an email right now.
Yeah. Scott.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, my first reaction just to get in with you guys there is you know, I think it's a great piece. You know, I have to admit this year I've been a little overwhelmed with other activities, so I really haven't been able to contribute until now. So I guess as far as the editing process goes, if I make some comments or suggested edits, do I send that back to the three of you as a group, or how would you want to do that?
That was actually a question I should have said that in my first. And do we have like a SharePoint that like OEQ can use so that people's comments and track changes can be sort of kept in one, so we have tight version control rather than 17 different things coming in and flying back and forth from email?
For some reason, I think that we've come across this in the past, and there were sunshine reasons for not being able to do that. Like it would be like a serial meeting or something, if I remember correctly, but maybe that changed.
Yeah, I think you're right. We'd have to follow up about sharing a document like that among all of you. I think the safest thing was to keep it to a smaller committee below quorum, so you could, work through these document changes without sunshine law implications. But we can certainly follow up with our law department and see if we could set up something on Google or wherever that you all can share. I don't recall. It's been a while.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's putting together an annual report right before the release of the CPRP is really intimidating. But it's like, I think that, Nate, like you said, just highlighting things that the commission sees as really good first places to start to kind of hone and focus our own understanding of the CPRP and the work that went into it, and what we see moving forward as mobilization points. I think that we can definitely use those issues that you highlighted in the top three. I I do want to propose potentially creating an entire like subsection about communication and about community mobilization, because I think that that is going to be vastly important in expanding the work of the CPRP. I do think that's going to be really, really important moving forward. And I was talking to someone recently about the idea of the submerged state, and just the fact that like even if the city is doing all these really fantastic things, unless we're broadcasting it and making sure that people understand that they're actively benefiting from what we're doing, then you don't get the same kind of support and the same kind of enthusiasm for these changes in the first place. So ways that we can highlight that communication work just as kind of a cutout of that idea, and I think I might have mentioned this previously, but just pushing for or joining in regional natural and ecological restoration projects. So for instance, the Heartland Conservation Alliance work with the Blue River, it extends across the entire region, across the entire metro. And while it's, it may not in the short term be as important as, say, transforming our transportation system or energy efficiency, it is something that can kind of highlight positive work on a regional scale, as opposed to in a kind of siloed way, So I don't know if that would be like an entirely different subsection just about communication and community leveraging, but yeah, what would even, I don't know. I'm not sure if it really tightly fits in with the format that you've put here, Nate.
I mean,
Well,
yeah, we can always have a highlight additional recommendations or something. I don't know.
well, would it be helpful to you guys if after the meeting, people send in what they maybe have on their minds to the three of you, and then maybe you all kind of mish it together?
We can do that.
Yeah, because I don't think you don't need a whole bunch of extra wordsmiths on the document. Does the city communication department have anybody who could help with graphics? Who would help with graphics? Andy?
Yeah, sorry about that. What was that question, Carol?
Does the city communication department have anybody who helps other departments with graphics and presentations?
Yes, I mean, our communications now is centralized for all city departments now. So now they're a little short staffed. They have one or two people that do graphics. But yeah, we just get in line usually and we wait it out.
Well, could we get in line now and see if they would get around to us before our next meeting?
Yeah, is this for the annual report?
Yes.
Yeah, sure. I'll follow up with them and find out what kind of a time frame they need when, to clean this up for when you're ready to publish it.
And do some graphics and make it captivating.
I think we can also do a certain amount of graphics too.
Yeah, kind of.
I mean, and are you thinking, Nate, to do a PowerPoint like Mike's not, but like a colorful brochure booklet kind of thing?
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
The magazine that the city put out, the quarterly magazine. I think if we had something, not a PowerPoint, but that was visually appealing, that would lend itself to inclusion, and that kind of thing would be perhaps helpful for communication.
Okay.
And it wouldn't be a duplicate effort on the part of the communication staff if they could also include it in a publication that was going out to all residents. I don't know. Nate, did you hear me say that? Maybe if you had some nice graphics and you had help from the city communication staff, they could at least make parts of what you all are putting together available in the next publication that goes out to all the citizens.
I don't know the Byzantine inner workings of the city, but I've often wondered why for the commissions and various councils and committees, why we're not able to sort of leverage them for things like, we're part of a city function. It feels like we should be able to utilize them as a resource. So and Andy could probably speak to it, but it would just be nice. It'd be nice if we weren't sort of cast adrift in some of these things that we do that are really critically important.
Yeah, no, I think in your case, what we could do is what communications will ask for is a creative brief. So it's,
We can do that.
Yeah, if you fill out that form and pretty much put in there what you want, then we can submit that, and that would move the process forward. So we'll get you the form. We'll send that to you guys.
Following up on Ben's comment, it might make sense to have a fourth category besides mobility, buildings, and circular, and have it be communication. Because communication is going to be so critical.
Right.
To making it inclusive.
Yeah, and I think that's what we've heard in the drafting of the CPRP2 is how incredibly vital it is to reach all of the different populations and sectors of the city. That in and of itself, if you talk about the digital divide, if you talk about different modes of communication, different contexts in terms of how you get information in the first place, that is a real need. The solution for that could be a couple of different things, from climate captains to a specific communications function within the communications department for the city to work on these activities specifically. And the partners for that would almost be like falling off a log. I mean, that seems very doable compared to the kind of collaborations and partnerships that would be required for some of these other actions.
I do want to make a small point and give some credit to Laura and Andy's office. Curious thing I learned during the climate protection planning process, Laura dropped off some hand-printed drafts of the climate protection plan for the Kansas City Public Libraries to have at each branch. Cool. For patrons to comment on. And the last time that the library has logged in its collection a city plan was the light rail plan of 2012. And that may be the last time that plans were published, or it may be that there was a relationship that just went dormant after that. But I merely pointed out as an interesting bit of information, and to appreciate the office for rekindling the city communication through the libraries.
And we'll be sure to get the library copies of this fabulous report.
Of course. I mean, yeah. Newspapers, skywriting. I mean, you really got it out there. So then the only other thing that I really think it bears kind of mentioning, just in terms of the built environment, is putting in there. It almost seems like redundant, but one of the things is requiring energy efficiency standards for city incentives, and we've been talking about it for so long that it kind of boggles my mind that that hasn't already happened yet. You know, that's still kind of waiting in the wings. So adding that to one of the built environment solutions. And then the other one that I think has real potential and could have real legs, even as it pertains to the IECC building code, is requiring that, you know, new listings for rentals or sales, just any kind of real estate transaction, include a Department of Energy home energy score and the average utility cost and utility type upfront when you are marketing, like when you are putting these places out for sale or for rent. A friend of mine who actually used to be on the commission, Joe Nichols, works for a high performance building company called Kala, and they recently just got pre-certified for their first passive house in Kansas City. And it's in the Beacon Hill neighborhood. From the outside, like architecturally, it looks very, very similar to the other buildings that are popping up over there. Like you wouldn't necessarily know from just the siding of the house or the aesthetics that this thing has 90% better efficiency than every single building around it. And that's going to continue to be an invisible asset unless and until we kind of put it out there from the very beginning, so that when builders come and they say, you know, what's the difference? We can put up something in Johnson County and it's going to cost us a fraction of the work and they don't know the difference anyway. We can come back and say, you know, this actually is worth something. Like this is a differentiator when people are looking for buildings.
Ben, I put some reference to that in my comments because we need to get away from just seeing a home as its monetary value.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't speak to the energy efficiency and access or how close you are to various things like transportation.
Sure.
Or
And
do you have sidewalks in your neighborhood?
Yeah. It's not a disposable commodity. You know, it has a legacy, both.
Yeah, that's the kind of information that actually a member or a couple members of the commission could take on as a project after we get past all of this, to just see what kinds of systems other communities have in place, how long they've been in place, how they managed to get them adopted, you know, all those things, that all of that kind of background work. We've done that before for different things that we wanted to see happen, and somebody has to do it. It doesn't, you can't just say this is a good idea and it happens. You have to do quite a bit of work to make sure you can demonstrate how it would actually come together.
Right. Well, Carol, I know that Minneapolis did pass something that requires upfront disclosures of energy score and energy cost, both for the housing market in terms of, you know, real estate that is sold and then leasing as well. So we could definitely put it in there.
Yeah. And well, I don't think we need to put it in this report. I think it's something we need to take on, you know, as an investigative project ourselves later. I know they have it on in some of the communities on the West Coast, and different places have taken different approaches, but that's not going to be an easy sell. So
yeah,
we would need to have our facts in order.
Yeah. As Laura says, it's in the climate plan, and I think I can even tell you which component. Anyway, so those are my last thoughts in terms of the annual report. Just that communications is important enough to have its own section, and we have a couple of low-hanging fruit in the built environment portion.
Can I get a commitment from the commissioners here to provide input to this working group, please? Yes. Don't everybody talk at once. Very well. Let's take a moment to see if there are any comments from visitors. Billy?
Hello. I really just have a question. Hello, Madam Chair, members of the commissions and staff. Thank you for your time. Billy Davies, Sierra Club, Missouri chapter and 6th District resident. First want to show off my Solarize Kansas City t-shirt. And thanks to this team and really to this for supporting and the staff for leading this really cool project. It was a really awesome launch opportunity and brought a lot of folks together on Monday, and folks are really excited. Just regarding, I came in late and it sounded like y'all were talking about the energy code meeting today, and maybe had talked, I don't know if you had talked about the TIO, Transportation Infrastructure Operations Committee meeting and the Balanced Energy Solutions resolution that got held in committee. I appreciate the conversation from this committee centering all of these in the climate plan and our climate goals, and that came up a lot, you know, as somebody bearing witness and giving testimony at the neighborhoods committee meeting and discussion on energy codes, like, you know, centering on our goals and our vision and moving forward. Knowing, I just was wondering, I think there's been talk that the climate plan, the kind of sort of final draft is being made available informally to council. Speaking as a resident who wants to support this plan and get it before my council member and talk about it and support, build their support for it and look at these important initiatives like building codes in the context of the climate plan, it would be great to, if there was some way to view that plan as a resident. And I was just wondering, is there going to be an opportunity to do that before it gets officially transmitted to council? If there's any way that it could be, you know, sort of publicized sooner, if there's any discussion of that happening. And if that can't be answered now, I understand, but would encourage that to happen if it's at all possible from this commission or the staff. I think it would benefit the public and going to bat for this work that you all have done. So thank you for your time and hearing the comment.
We did have some conversation about that earlier. And so, Laura, if you would share with Billy the documents that you think are available and accessible right now, that would be helpful. And then you'll have an idea of where we are as far as the commission's availability. There are some publicly available documents and such as minutes and things that you could look at.
Yeah, I'm in Andy's office, so Andy gets to sound like me for a little bit. Billy knows about the CPSC minutes. I think you've probably already seen the CPSC changes that were in there last minute, so he already knows about those. But I am hoping that once we get approval from the CPSC, bless you, Billy. Once we get approval from the CPSC, that we can get all that posted on the website, and it may not be for very long before it goes to council, but definitely would like the public to actually see the document that they're endorsing before they go to endorse.
Thank you, appreciate it. And I'll just think, I think, and I will go back and look at the minutes.
Is there anybody else who has? It looks like Michael. Is your hand up, or is your hand just still up from approving the minutes? Well, we are down. Go ahead, Molly.
Do we have a hard deadline for this report?
Yeah, it was May.
Okay, because so it's ASAP, and we want it to go in before the climate protection plan.
No, not necessarily. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. No, but I think that it would be good for us to get it in pretty much a final draft, as close as we could get in for our July meeting.
I agree.
Okay.
Because we just need to move forward with it.
I was just thinking in terms of when it goes in compared to when the the plan goes in, we could heavily endorse the plan, or we're not endorsing the plan.
Yeah, I think that you know, we talked about that a little bit before. If the
We
plan
have.
is moving great guns and fast, we maybe just let it move fast and get approved.
Okay.
If it gets slowed down, that gives us more time to communicate support.
Okay.
Should there be questions?
One last comment on, we're always getting this pushback on cost on everything from the builders. And I don't know if anyone else follows this, but there's a thing called the Aga Khan Awards. They're given every 3 years for fabulous architecture in usually really poor areas of the world. And I just believe that there is a way to do these things without enormous cost. There's also the Pritzker Prize, which is the best architecture award. And this year's winner is a guy originally from Burkina Faso. And these things are wonderful. And I just think we need to keep pushing back that, no, it doesn't have to cost that much. We legislate and have a lot of legal things that bind us and make these things more expensive. But I do think there are ways to do this stuff well. And okay, I'm off my soapbox now.
Okay, I see a hand up from Marty, and then we will wrap it up after that.
Well, I just wanted to mention that we're building some Johnson Sioux bioreactors over at the Casey Farm School, 4223 Gibbs Road, Kansas City, Kansas. 9 o'clock on Friday.
Oh, thank you, Marty.
Yeah, so we were going to do 4 of them, but we've only come up with 2 IBC totes, so we need 2 more IBC totes to convert. So if anybody out there has an IBC tote in their back pocket, please let me know.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Marty.
Sure.
If there's no objection, we'll go ahead and adjourn. We've been convened.
We'll unconvene.
Okay, we'll unconvene.
And
Cool.
let's meet in person in July.
Well, we'll see if Andy can do it. One of the things, if we meet in person, we need commitments to get a quorum.
Sure.
So we'll have to see. And some people, I realize it's easier for them to meet their home obligations without meeting in person. So we kind of need to figure that out.
Yeah, it might take some practice, but
We're out of practice.
yeah,
Yeah.
I folded my laundry today.
I saw.
We saw that. And you look
Well,
very sharp and
I
clean.
think some of us have childcare responsibilities. And so, we need to decide far enough in advance that works for people. Okay.
Marty, you can bring your laundry next time.
Oh, good. I will.
And Michael can bring his baby.
That's right.
Cool.
That'd be fun.
That'd be great.
All right. Well, thanks,
Okay.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.